Yes, what's going on? It's the One More Thing Daily. Daily updates about all the cool things the One More Thing is doing and loving and putting out into the universe. And today I want to tell you that it is that deep. It is that deep. It's always that deep. Stuff is super, super deep for me, especially One More Thing. Super, super personal. This is my entire life's work right in here, trying to launch and develop this brand and develop something. So it always goes deep for me, even if we're talking about the most high impact banger. But that's another level of deepness. The deepness I want to talk about is deep music. And what does deep mean to you? This is my question to you today. What does deep mean? I asked you what old school meant to you before, and if you want to get back to that question, it's still out there hanging like a fart in a lift. And now this question is too. What is deep for you? There's a couple of things that have really, really made me think that. First of all, we finally published our Minor Forms article. I think I teased it a couple of times in the videos last week. I can't quite remember. I do these videos and then go on about my day. But they are here to update you on all of the cool stuff that we're doing. And I planned to get the Minor Forms article up a little bit earlier than I did. But it's up now. And he's written some amazing stuff. And I asked him a few questions and he just came back with this love letter to the back rooms of clubs. His album is called Room 2, which is actually named after his studio, which is the second room in his house, his bedroom, and then room 2, the studio. But also the amount of time that he spent in the back rooms of clubs and the places where things get experimented with. There's a wonderful quote by him. Actually, I'm going to read it out. Room 2s are absolutely essential to club culture and where a lot of DJs get their experience. They also allow a lot more diverse range of music to occur during an event. It also allows people to escape the main room and experience a different vibe or genre. Obviously, the intensity and the energy of the main room is exciting and fun, but hearing DJs go deeper or play alternative sets can make a night feel more whole and ultimately more interesting. That is a sick love letter to the Room 2 and why it's so important to have that alternative space. And with all of the stories of nightclubs closing, literally a club in my home city, the Moon, I was literally just reading an article about that closing before I started filming this, which is a real shame, a real shame. My friend actually launched that place years ago. Big up Gwen if you're watching this. I know you do watch some of these videos. So I mean, as clubs are closing, it's less and less likely to have that kind of second room space. And it's really important to cultivate that space. Not everything has to be extreme. Not everything has to hit hard straight away and whack you straight within that first minute. Now, let's watch a video now. Another reason why. So please go and check out the Minor Forms interview, but most importantly, check out his album. Really, really good. Exceptional piece of work. Body of work, I should say, on CIA, Total Sciences label. So let's watch this little clip now. This is another reason why I've been thinking about deep music. This is a clip from the LSB interview that we did at Sun and Bass, and then we re-uploaded as its own interview last week. Link is in the description as always. So this is a little clip from LSB.
And it was seeing some of those really, really deep tracks, which you don't see hundreds of people raving to very often, really. Not at a festival, not a club, really. It's a shame. And I can't remember who made a post. It might have been yourself. Somebody made a post about a year ago saying, like, why, like comparing it to rock and like kind of soft bands or like trance and like melodic EDM, but in drum and bass, the musical side and the deeper side just doesn't get played to big audiences.
I don't know. I see things with it. I don't know if it's particularly like me, that one. But one thing I was aware of was like, again, like when I used to go out, like the concept of getting lost in a tune for a few minutes and just like it rolling out, and like that's what I really loved. And it just like little progressed to be quite subtle. And even in like loads of other music that I like outside of drum and bass, it's quite a lot about the anticipation and the journey of it.
And not about the impact. Reduced everything down to the impact.
And it's all quick and like it's so. That's just. And I've always been quite stubborn. I think. I can't remember. He told me like you're quite a slow DJ, and I'm like, oh, but it's like a conscious thing because like it's quite easy to mix quick these days. Not like vinyl where you're just like scrambling around, and so like we could all do it, and it's just a bit of restraint in not maybe. And I know it doesn't always work, but when it does work, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It is beautiful. It really is beautiful. And Mr. Slow DJ LSB there makes loads of really, really valid points. The whole interview is not that long. It's great to watch. He's on great form all throughout Sun and Bass. We bumped into each other a lot of time. The conversation gets deep because we're talking about mortality and lengths of careers and all of these things. And he's really found himself in a very inspired place, which is deep in itself. But there we're talking about deep music and the anticipation and getting lost inside music. The interview then goes on to talk about how dance floors have changed and how raving has changed and how people have different expectations of the music. That's really important for evolution, absolutely really important. But just as things change on the dance floor, there should be always a reminder of how things can be done alternatively or how things can be done in a different way. And I do think with like things like fake drops and stuff like that and making that impact, that's great. That's the thing that's happening at the moment, and that's the thing that's pushing and inspiring a lot of artists and DJs, and it's what a lot of young audiences really, really love. But that's not to say there isn't a space for longer tracks, more immersion, more anticipation, more subtleties, more nuances in the music. So there's that as well. That's a cool thing to highlight. Now, what triggered this whole kind of discussion for me, really, was a post that was made by Mr. Energy. Here's a picture of him eating an ice cream. That is actually the cover of a mix that he did for us pretty much 2 years ago. It's a really cool interview, great mix. One of my favourites at the time. It was full of dubs and forthcoming stuff off Overview. It was a really, really, really cool mix. There's a Ruben track on there, which still gives me goosebumps now. Hold tight, Ruben. So Energy talked about, or Peter, let's say, he did a post saying like he wasn't too keen on people referring to Overview as deep anymore. He didn't think it was appropriate and felt it was a little bit cringe. And there was a whole discussion on his Facebook page. And I came back and I said, no, like I see deep as a compliment. I see deep as, if somebody says you're deep, then that's great. It means you go deeper than surface level. It means that there's more to it. It means you have to listen to something maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 100 times before something kind of twigs and you're like, oh my God, I get that. If everything is just supposed to be full flavour straight away, and I love full flavour straight away, like I absolutely love it, but not all the time. You need the deep to make the full flavour taste even more full flavour. You need the deep for these strange ideas to kind of incubate and then turn into something else. It is completely open to interpretation, as all of these terminologies are. And to give you a really interesting example, like yesterday when Mark did his Choices, he said he was on a liquid tip, a deep and liquid tip. And some of those tracks that he picked, certainly the third tune, and I wish I'd made a note of it now. But in fact, I'm going to check it now. So that's Novalu and Kubrick. Kubrick is a regular on the demo drop, so hold tight, Kubrick. The track's called Next Year, and I thought that was a banger. I thought that was a banging track. Like, that would be kind of like quite high energy for me and my own personal set. Isn't a deep or liquid one at all. So interpretation is absolutely everything. But yeah, that conversation with Peter, and hold tight, Peter, like a massive supporter of One More Thing, and yeah, an all-round great guy. I love Overview on what you've been doing with that. So hold tight, this isn't a diss in any way. It's just how the conversation has really inspired me. Now I've turned it into a little bit of a joke on Vision Radio anytime we announce an Overview tune. But yeah, I mean, he found the word deep cringe. So that's really interesting. I mean, suddenly when a word is used as a kind of throwaway or quite dismissive catch-all phrase, then it does become cringy in a way that it loses its value. And I think that's what Pete felt, and also that his label had moved on and that it wasn't quite so deep, and that they are actually putting out some absolute bangers, which they are. So yeah, these are the kind of reasons, and the fact, my opening thing that I said before, like, it does go that deep. Everything goes that deep with me. Like, I've chosen to do this and take a pretty substantial pay cut in the hope that I can really build something that goes deep as fuck and has a legacy and has ripples that go on for generations and influences people, like all of the great labels that have shaped the previous generation. Like, that's how deep it goes. And to tell you how deep it goes, I wanted to highlight just a couple of my favourite deep releases that we put out on One More Thing. I should have really done some research on some of the deepest interviews that we've done as well. I'll tell you what, I will actually. One has already sprung to mind and it really hasn't been watched anywhere near as much as it should have been. So I'll sign out with that. But I want to give you, I think it's 5 very, very short clips and examples, 5 of my favourite deep tracks that we have released so far on One More Thing. And I'm going to start with this one here because it's the most recent one. As deep, dark, dovey drum and bass goes, like, it don't get any deeper than that, really. That is Tyr Kohout. That is the title track from the Hunt EP, which still remains our most recent release at the moment, until next week, where we've got something pretty ridiculous dropping, which I'm really excited about. So that's the Hunt. That's deep. That's like those drums, this kind of tribally. You can imagine that mixing with some samurai records or something. That's real Room 2 material. So that's one of my favorite deep records that we put out so far. Okay, so now my second favourite deep tune, and they're not in any order. I don't have a top 10 or anything like that. Right, so my second example of a sick deep tune that we put out, changing the tempo a little bit. It's kind of on an electro-y, breakbeaty tip. This is Barona, who's a very, very, very good friend of the team as part of the One More Thing community. This is actually a debut release, and it came out on the One More Thing Volume 2 album last year, and it's called Peggy Caddis. It is a tribute to her aunt. How sick is that? That goes deep, like, wow. Exactly what LSB was saying, like getting lost inside music. You definitely get lost inside a track like that. That is Barona with Peggy Caddis. And that came out on the One More Thing Volume 2 album, which dropped last April 2023. So now on something from Scorpion. We got something really sick from Scorpion coming up actually in December, by the way. This was the first EP that we dropped in May this year. And this is the title track as well. It's the title track of the EP, and it's called Experimental Research. And I'm going to drop us in around about the kind of breakdown. I mean, the whole thing, like the actual track is inspired by a DMT trip. He's explained to us on an interview before. That kind of goes deep if you're into the psychedelic side of things. Let me just play a little bit of this, because I mean, this for me, this is deep as hell. Like. Now, in comparison to Peggy Caddis, that don't sound deep at all. But in comparison to other drum and bass and stuff, I mean, that's actually 160. But I mix it with a lot of drum and bass, and I pitch it up a little bit and pitch drum and bass records down and stuff and whatnot. That goes deep. That is Experimental Research, and that's another deep track. I've got 2 more tunes to play for you, 2 more deep examples of One More Thing on a kind of deep flex. Then I'm going to shout out an interview that I did a long time ago. And then we're going to sign out completely. So 2 more tracks. Right, this is a Plasma Tour, 5 o'clock. That's emotional and atmospheric. That, I believe, was actually inspired by the 9 Windows album by Kid Drama and DJ Trace. Which Plasma Tour was really, really inspired by. So kind of on an atmospheric, deep jungle kind of tip was his influences there. Again, kind of super emotional, quite cinematic and driving in that way. But definitely I would say deep as well. There's no kind of instant impact on that. And the last track now, because he has just dropped an album and it is fucking sick. It is Erotic Cafe. He's dropped an album on Noi, which is called In the Midst of Bias. It's one of those kind of multi-genre affairs. It's a real trip. Huge shouts to Marco. And this is a track of his that we released last year, again on the One More Thing Volume 2 album. This is called Alive. And rolling deep and driving, and I mean I'm gonna say, like, his album is a whole other level on top of that. So while there are links in the description for all of these tracks, because it's great to be able to shout about them and showcase just how much awesome music the One More Thing is putting out into the universe, and I got a whole other thing to tell you about that at some point as well. I've made the mix of all my favorite pieces of tunes that we've put out on One More Thing so far, which is going to come out sometime in December. I haven't finished working on it yet. We've put out almost 100 tunes, like maybe even more. I haven't actually counted them individually. We've put out a lot of music, but those are my 5 favorite deep ones. And yeah, I would say that Erotic Cafe's album is better than that track that we put out. So while I would love for you to check that, and it's still a fucking banging track, his album is a whole other level as well. And yeah, that's it. And I would like to highlight, in fact, I'm going to play you a clip. I'm not too sure which clip it's going to be, so I can't respond to it once I put it in the edit like I did with the LSB. I knew exactly what clip I was going to use there. But yeah, I just want to show you, like, our interviews go super deep. It's the long form vibe, like, immerse yourself. If you really like this, then fucking get into it. Like, yeah, so this is an interview with Quentin Hiatus, and this one does go extremely deep. It was the first interview that really kind of sprung to mind when I was thinking about, I should have picked some really deep interviews as well. It's been criminally underwatched. Maybe the fact that it's over an hour is a little bit off-putting for some people, but it's a super personal interview and it's amazing. He says lots of really interesting stuff across all different types of factors, including his heritage and his place and his feelings as a Black American, but also the passing of his son as well. And then on a much other tip, he's given me all different types of kind of inspiration and advice on a business tip as well. It goes deep in every single direction. So here's a little clip of that, and if you're interested, then please check that interview out as well.
All of those things come from self-actualization and becoming a real man, I'll be honest. And you can't do that without kind of going through some of the nitty-gritty of where the hell you're from and where the people are from. Yeah.
And I guess exploring, then going right back to your first point about vulnerabilities as well there, and kind of when you're understanding yourself. And I don't think it's any coincidence then that in the last 10 years you've been releasing a lot of music, and have gone from, you know, prior to that you were DJing, you've been involved in the industry for a lot longer, but in that 10 years of self-actualization, that's where Quentin Hiatus has come to be. You willed him into existence as an alias, as a spokesperson, expressing what you've been learning about yourself and about the Black American experience and about the human experience.
Yes. And it all came, dude, my first album that really allowed me to be more honest with my music and what I was releasing and really get behind my own sound was an album that I did it was 2011, I think. Shit. It was either 2011 or 2013, don't quote me. But the album is called It's Only.
This is one of the earliest albums.
Yes, it's my first album that I ever did, like album. And I'll be honest, that album was my first real showcase of how experimental I wanted to be with this music. And being honest with myself that I was bored as fuck with the state of drum and bass and jungle at the time. Because I'm gonna be honest with you. In fact, I don't listen to drum and bass at all. I don't. Wow. I don't follow it. I haven't for a very long time.
Even your peers, like, you know, even people that
I don't. Look, if my homies send me music, of course.
Yeah.
But like dude, I don't follow shit, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, because look, I don't. For my creative process, I don't want to know what everybody else is doing. I don't care what they're doing. I don't care what the sounds are that they're using, what's popular at the time. In fact, that I want to be as far away from that as possible. And when I'm in incubation stage for making tunes and things like that, I want to be solely focused on the stuff that matters to me.
And what you're manifesting inside, your own 100%. Ideas. You don't want to be sidetracked. You don't want to be
know what everybody else is doing. I don't fucking care,
in any
to
way.
Be honest. No, I don't. I do not. And it's no disrespect to drum and bass or anybody in it. It's not about that. It's about, for me, I derive my inspirations from completely different places.
I'm not sure what clip I've used there, so I'm not going to put in some type of contrived response like, yeah, deep and meaningful shit there from Quentin Hiatus. It's all deep and meaningful shit from Quentin Hiatus. And we've got an EP coming out from him next year. If you're a member of our Patreon, you can actually hear some IDs of that release as well. Yes. So that's all up on Patreon. And I also dropped on Patreon our interview with Titan. That one goes deep as well. That one goes super deep. All about his life as a strongman, and then putting that discipline and all that determination and all of that practice into his DJ career and taking it to some nerdy levels. I love that. That goes deep. So yeah, if you're interested, if you watch this to the end, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe and do all of that cool stuff. Please tell your friends about One More Thing. Check out any of the links if you've got any time, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Also, aspiring producers, get your demos over. The demo drop is on Thursday, 6 p.m. UK time. Slightly different day, slightly different time, but hopefully it should be sick. They always have been so far. So yeah, that's it from me. I'm going to carry on being deep for the rest of the day. You have a deep day as well now you're here. Hey.